Wow, it has been a wonderful day with lots of amazing speakers with valuable content. But we have saved the best for last. And for you who managed to catch it, good on you. So here we have Trudy Bateman, and she is an expert in strengths and their application. She has delivered thousands of strength solutions through coaching, facilitating, and consulting. And she has trained over 3,000 practitioners with the strengths approach. Her clients include BBC, PwC, the Welsh government, and hundreds of global universities, including Harvard. So it is of tremendous privilege for us here at She Network to have her grace our launch to share valuable research insights on women's strengths with you and to do a live demonstration using the strengths profile to unleash your strengths, to unlock happiness, and to empower yourself and the people around you. So here I'm going to welcome Laura and Trudy to join me. Hi, Laura. Hi, Trudy.
Hello, Joy. Lovely to be here. Thanks for having me today.
Thank you for coming in. So I thought that with Trudy being the head of Strengths Profile, it just seems appropriate for me to take the opportunity to acknowledge one of Laura's superpower. So in her Strengths Profile, one of her superpower is that really shines deep for me is actually two of it, and I would say that would be a humility and being adaptable as her realized strengths. Being my partner in she seems very, very flexible and definitely very adaptable in whatever new ideas I have. If I throw it at her, she will always stay calm and she's always collected and she's always like, okay, how do we go about doing that? And I really appreciate that about her being adaptable. And I guess even her real life strength of planner come into the picture. So Laura, thank you so much. You've really been using your strengths to support the She Network. Oh, Laura, I think you've muted yourself.
Okay, yes, I think I'm back. I was saying thank you very much for the opportunity to use my strengths. I think especially in She Network, and I would say that the strengths that I love about you as well. I had a hard time narrowing it down, so I think like you, I had like, oh, which one do I have to choose? So I think for me, actually the three, obviously legacy. I think just the idea of really caring and investing in doing something that lasts. I think that's one thing that I really love when we get to work together. That ties in for me very strongly with your strength of mission as well. So just being very mission minded, looking for what can we do that actually gives that gives meaning and purpose. And obviously with that is action. So that's how we keep moving forward. So for me, like those three, I had a hard time narrowing down those strengths, but I think that's that's why we work well together, because we are so complementary and we both have similar leanings. We love celebrating strengths.
Yes, yeah. So, Trudy, any comments from you about our sharing of each other's superpowers?
Yeah, great. I've always got comments when it comes to strengths. I think initially what's really nice is you can hear the complementary partnering, as Laura mentioned, coming out, which is just fundamental. So you really appreciate Laura's adaptable, but then she kind of sounds like she's then using that with your action. So those two together are going to be pretty dynamic in terms of getting things done for you guys. And maybe even today's just evidence of that. All these speakers in one day, a massive launch program. So those two strengths really coming together there. But then there's also strengths that you unite on. So this legacy, this mission, and what you guys have achieved here is clearly quite profound. So at the heart of all that action and that adaptability is kind of your core meaning and purpose, which together it's this, you unite on. So a really good balance there, I'd say.
Wow, Laura, yummy. Yeah, she's definitely. Yeah, Laura's definitely a great partner in She for me. So, okay, so without further delay, let's dive into what I'm really looking forward to, the research insight. So, Trudy, over to you.
Thank you. So this will be the first time we've launched this particular set of data and research. So really excited to be doing it here with you guys. So just a little bit around the data, what it is that we want to do here with you. So at Strengths Profile, as you're probably aware, there are many thousands of people taken each day and month, but what we looked at was kind of around 60,000 strengths profiles, and started to look at the differences in maybe countries or women or men and sectors, all sorts of different areas of uniqueness coming through within the strengths profiles. But today we're going to focus on sort of the real superpowers of women. So, really looking at kind of what it is that we do differently, and most importantly, it's good to know the data, but then what do you do with it? So we really want that sort of practical application here today, and I'm really happy to hear two super women as well who can feed into maybe some of these strengths as well. So I guess, we're all, whilst there are strengths that we've all got in common, it is really important that whoever you are in the community is that you're playing to your strengths. First of all, that's fundamentally the most important part. So whilst I'm going to talk about the differences in men and women only because there's no one that's better than the other, it's all around, if we know what it is that we are particularly exceptional at, then maybe we can look at how do we play more to that, and how do we maybe even be a bit more strategic with that, or maybe even how do we use that a little bit less. So first of all, it's kind of looking at the data and then being a little bit practical. My excitement in this area and research is having delivered many women in leadership programs over the years. It is evident that often women don't always choose maybe a conscious career. So women might often fall into careers or get careers suggested to them, but I'm really hoping today's research between us all and our contributions can help women really think about actually what it is that they stand for, want, that's again, supporting your language around strengths and happiness and empowerment. So women taking more of a conscious decision around careers is something that I'm really passionate about, because it's not, in my experience, it's not always been the case. We often just be busy and really do everything rather than perhaps do things and slow down a bit and actually find out what we're amazing at. So does that make sense, ladies, before I kick off with some of this research?
Yes, definitely.
Absolutely.
Being a strengths profile coach myself, I think that's what we do for male and female anyway. What is it that you're most passionate about? I think that's when the natural energy comes in, and with energy, we can really go the distance. So it's very heartening to push this forward for women to be more conscious of their career choice, because we spend so much time of our life just in that area.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love how you mentioned like working with women in leadership as well, and how important that is. Just being intentional, knowing where to play to your strengths. I think we've been hearing a lot about that over the last few months, where women leaders are playing to their strengths, and it's really shining through in very positive ways. So I'm very excited to hear the research to that as well.
Fabulous. Thank you, Joy and Lauren. Great to hear your contributions. And I think, for me, at the heart of all this is helping women to be more authentic. So, back in the day, 20 years ago, women potentially in the boardroom were trying to behave a bit more like men. And I think what we're now seeing is very much, you don't need to do that. You need to be you, and you need to be you even better than you. But at the heart of all of that, it's you and not trying to be anybody else. So we've moved on since then, but that sort of original work that I've done is really helping women to be really authentic. So the data that I might share here is important to reflect on this, because you might not have these strengths in your profile, so you might be thinking, well, actually that isn't really relevant to me. But what is relevant is the stories that we're telling around how it's just so important to be whoever you are, more doing more of your being more of your best self. So kicking off then, so we have more relating strengths. So that's probably not what I would call a revelation. Of strengths profiles, so the three that came out quite sort of much higher than men were relationship deepener, so really going above and beyond and connecting with other people. Esteem builder, so helping other people, are really kind of boosting their confidence, so we'll often be seen doing that more so than men. And we are more compassionate. So those three all sit in the relating family. So our 60 strengths are divided up into 5 families, and all of those three that we were higher in came from the relating family. So I think if we just pause there, yes, it's not maybe to be expected or what we know, but then it's also looking at all of those and think, well, how do we use them, and do we use them as effectively as we could and should be doing? So if we look at relationship deepeners, so forming deep and long-lasting relationships is what we're good at. Are those so I have counterpoint as one of mine, which means I'm always looking to interject and offer an opinion. I would challenge us women to say, are we building the relationships that are going to really impact our way of being and working and our families, or are we potentially building too many with the wrong people? And wrong people sounds a bit harsh, but I think women can want to reach out to many people and support other people. So it's just, my tip around that would be, make sure you connect with the right people. So, don't just put the same sorts of people in your network. If you've got more of a conscious career, build relationships with people that are going to give you that superpower, support your superpower, and really kind of invest in those. So maybe give yourselves a little bit of a coaching session around how you use some of these relating, because relating is about going above and beyond to connect with others. We've only got a certain amount of hours in the day, so make it impactful. And that would also go for compassion as well. So just ensuring, being compassionate with everybody is probably not sustainable. So maybe we're reaching out to those that really need us right now. So that was really rewarding to see that we are, the relating strengths are coming out stronger. I would just say that just maybe, ladies, if that is you, be careful just to make sure that you're really using them as and when you need to, rather than maybe having them, your foot on that pedal all the time and driving it hard. And then finally, these are all realised strengths that are quite a difference, is service. So we go above and beyond to really serve. This was a common strength generally, but women were higher in this. And again, I think it's a fantastic strength to have, to show that we can support and be there for each other. And also it's a great strength to support. In fact, it's my favourite strength to support one of the most common weaknesses in the world of being competitive. Is one of our strongest weaknesses globally in the world, and I think service is amazing to support that. So if you think about not wanting to win is not important, or when you're in a job interview, when you're going for something and you're a little not so confident, being of great service, doing your research, supporting people, following up, all those things can really help. So it's a great strength to sort of offset anything that can be quite common underneath as well. So there's some key things that are coming through for women. A couple of the other ones then on the thinking family side is planning and organising. We are up there. And we do more of this and enjoy it. So whilst sometimes potentially could feel that we do more of that, we do enjoy it. So it's something that's coming up as a real superpower of ours to get organised. And I think from women who often will have maybe parents and children that they might look after as well as go to work and get that conscious career, it is really important to have that up there, because that means that you can get organised and carve out that conscious career by and I know, Joy, you're brilliant at, you put yourself everywhere. You are very organised in what you do, and you probably wouldn't be where you are successfully without all these things going on, and there's a planner in there somewhere. In fact, Laura, it's one of yours as well, I noticed.
Yes.
Yes. So that's where it comes from. Laura's the planner then, for both of you. But really important for women to actually appreciate those strengths. Sometimes they might feel like things that we have to do to get to where we are with everything that we take on as women. But I think it's really important to recognise these are probably strengths that are really going to get us to where we want to be based on everything we also want to do in our world or have responsibility for. They're really important to kind of so that we can get access to other things rather than just maybe get swamped down in one area, by being really organised. So another, just one final nice one there, lovely one, is gratitude. So women more grateful in terms of what they've got around them. So that perspective of life right now, and I think we're seeing a lot of that come through in these times that we're in now in the pandemic as well. Gratitude being a really critical strength in terms of resilience and bounce back, but if you supporting us through these challenging times as well. So brilliant collection of things that women have there that we can play to. I think if I sum up the realised strengths, we can play to more strategically. It's great that we care, but let's use it in the right ways to give us access to things that we need and want, and to make the right connections. And also in that organising and planning side of things is to keep us going, so that we can, again, have that sort of the diary that works for us, should we say, whatever that might look like. So I'll just pause there in case you ladies had any question. That's just one quadrant, the realised strengths. I've got a few more quadrants to get through, but it's all really important how we make up the strengths profile quadrant that looks at other things just beyond strengths as well.
Well, for me, no major surprises. I'm like a relationship deepener, yeah. Esteem builder, yeah, of course. Compassion, or don't even need to talk about it. It's very comforting, affirming to have research to testify what I think most of us already see in our families, with our mothers, grandmothers, and even ourselves. Like, I think that I get a lot of what I'm doing is because I watched them do that, and then now I somehow developed that strength by watching. I'm able to also emulate what's going on and use that in service of my own family. So there's something like it's almost like I wonder whether it's an inherited genes that women have. So that's the curiosity part of me asking.
Yeah. And you're probably right there, absolutely. From the psychology side, if we go back to sort of cavemen and women caring and men hunting, you're absolutely, I wouldn't be surprised if you're right there. And I guess just to add in, this doesn't mean as women we're not strategic. We don't have these other strengths or anything like that, or that we don't have mission and legacy and maybe things or innovation. It's not saying that at all. It's just saying that when it comes to the biggest difference between men and women, this is it. So where we've got it, let's play towards it. So it wasn't that men came in off the scale, more strategic, more innovative, and on those things. So, just to give you a couple of examples, men were more competitive. Probably not a surprise, yeah. Had a bit more self-belief. So it's not that they're sort of off, they're doing everything else differently or better than us. And it's not about better, as you know, it's just different. We want to celebrate our superpowers, our USP, our unique selling point, and this is where we just come in above and beyond.
And I love that with the research, like you said, there aren't necessarily like major surprises, but I really like how you make it very practical. How do you apply that strength? And just that advice of, okay, if you're great at relating, how are you using that? And just maybe being more directional in terms of utilizing that. And I love how it works together with, well, if you're more relational and you're a planner, now you can plan your relationships and use that and kind of combine that and make that work for you. So I really enjoy what you're sharing. It's fantastic.
Thank you, Laura. And for me, it's it's all about this is a few years old, when people used to sort of say, can we have it all? I think with some of these strengths, maybe we can lean more into that because we can be organised enough, but we've probably got to say no more in some of these areas. So service for me is one of the most common overplayed strengths that I see, where we go above and beyond too often. And I think, let's get some priorities in place with ladies, in terms of being more conscious around what you're doing and when you're doing it and how you're doing it and who you're doing it with. So let's talk about some of the things then that might drain us. There's only a couple of things I want to raise around this that might be different from men. So women are good at being courageous, so they have courage, they are good at it, but it drains us more. So I think it's one to watch for us women. So we do it, ladies. We are a perfect example of courage, I'm sure, pushing ourselves out of our comfort zone. But if we kept doing it again, it could drain us. So it's really important that we just clock that and be good to ourselves, kind to ourselves, recover. I'm not saying stop being courageous. Of course, I am saying give us time to recover. So that was one of the things that sort of came out more. And again, if you're a coach or it's yourself, or you're nodding and smiling now and thinking, yeah, okay, that makes sense to me. It's really important that we think about recovery, because I think for women, in my experience, an example of being a mum and a leader, and also for training in this space for 20 years, we will often just keep going. So I think giving yourself that break to say, do you know what I did, Joy, today, Laura, today, you've been pushed the boat, you've done brilliant in terms of this community network and all these different speakers, but you're going to need an early night, a glass of wine, whatever you're going to need tonight to recover, and then take it easy for the week. So it's just important that we recognize that as well. So and then I think some of the other things, we're actually quite consistent with men around like work ethic and detail. All those things were quite consistent. One other that might persuasion was something that came up as well, and I'm quite passionate about this. It's one of my top strengths. So we are good at persuasion. Remember, ladies, learn behaviours, but it can drain us. But what I wanted to add here is we have exceptional relationship skills. So when you combine, when you relate well, like we do, we are proven to have more of, then adding a bit of persuasion into that great relationship conversation, then you're halfway there. So use those networks that you've spent so much time building and doing a great job on in relating to help you become more persuasive, to use it wiser. So just a couple of points there, just to watch our energy, which is really important for us. So then coming on to our weaknesses, then as two, I just want to draw attention to that we have more of these as weaknesses. So one of them is competitive, and that is, men are generally enjoy being more competitive than us. I think for me, when I look at this though, competitive, I see it all the time in coaching, so it's fairly common for men as well. It's just more common for women. It's, well, what do you want to achieve? If you had competitive as your top strength, what would you be doing differently? How would it look if you had that as a strength? And then think about that vision, whether it's a new career, a new location, a new hobby, a new community, whatever you're doing. What does it look like if you just went out there to win all the time? And then what strengths have you got that can help you achieve that and help get you there? So it doesn't have to be win, 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 but it can be achieve, achieve, achieve. It's just using your strengths to get there, as we know. So using the things that you're brilliant at. Don't be competitive. We're generally not as competitive. I'm not saying that we can't do it, but it's something that we would rather not do. But we have things like service. I mentioned service earlier. It's a brilliant strength to be able to serve and support others. Can really help with winning when it comes to things like pitching for something, or job interviews, or asking for something that's awkward, or you've got to ask for a raise from your boss. Then we've got other strengths, the relationships, the service, that can really help us as well. So it's just one to watch, ladies. You don't need, in my experience of being in the world of work, it's not a critical weakness. It's just one to watch. How do you see that in terms of your experience, ladies?
So it's interesting for me as a strength coach. It always come out this strength service is such a great strength to offset competitive. Most people like even saying the word drains them like they have
Yeah.
this downward energy already. But then when you think about service, suddenly we're talking about the same thing really, but you just feel different about it because now your mind is thinking of service. Oh, if I do this and this can help people, then like then I'm really onto it because I want to help people. And in order to do that, then I need to do all this other. Is I think about mindset shift, having that framework, and just being authentic to what energizes you. Focus on that, but it could be the same end result that we want, but it's the destination and the pathways that we want to take to reach that goal. So using tapping on our realized strength, if needed, learn behavior. It's definitely a more sustainable way to get what we want.
Yeah. Thanks, Joy.
Laura, we can't hear you. Maybe you mute yourself.
Hello. Okay. Yeah. So, Trudy, I was just thinking as you're talking about the competitiveness as potentially a driver towards winning. I'm wondering, like, would you say there's a distinction between, let's say, winning and achieving, or
Definitely.
like how would you maybe explain that a little bit more? Like the whole idea of you can achieve maybe while creating outcomes that don't have to be competitive, perhaps.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me it's quite simple. If you think about even today, ladies, what you've achieved. Yeah, what you've achieved by today in the community you've set up and the network and all those brilliant speakers. You've achieved great things. You've been very driven with all your adaptableness, your legacy, your mission. For you got together at the beginning and said, what do we want to achieve? What is it that's important? What do we want to do differently? How do we create this network? Why are we doing it? Who do we want to serve? Yeah, you got together and went, this is the vision. Did you win? I don't think so. You achieved great things through your drive and your strengths. You didn't win because there wasn't anybody to win over. It was you haven't kind of got there first and really excited that you're the first. You've got there because you really want to make a difference. So the vision, as Joy said, really, the pathway, it's about the pathways to the vision. And competitive for me is very much around winning, can be potentially seen as a bit negative in some people as well, if you don't do it right. So coming back to Joy's point earlier as well, being authentic. So it's a learned behaviour for me. I can do it because, but I don't really enjoy it. That's not what I was put on earth to do. And I need to watch it if I have to do it, but it doesn't appeal to me at all. And if I went into a boardroom or any situation to win with that attitude, I'd probably get it wrong because it's not me. I'm going to do it wrong. I'm not going to get where I want to be, and I might offend people probably along the way. So being authentic is knowing what you want to achieve by winning, if we call it that, and then your strengths getting you there. But competitive is very much about, winning. So it can be seen as quite sporty, potentially, or salesy, marketing-y, that sort of types of roles that will be good in it.
Thank you for that perspective as well. And I think when you touched as well, I really liked your point on courage and balancing that with rest, because I imagine maybe there's a little bit of it seems to me like a continuum of courage and service. So you're constantly driven to serve and step out and be courageous, but maybe with that's where building in that time for rest and actually taking care of yourself in between those milestones sounds very important.
Yeah, really, absolutely. And using those other strengths to give maybe the relating a break. And courage is, can be exhausting just by the nature of what you're doing there, as you say. The other one I just want to mention before going finally onto unrealised strengths is self-belief. So unfortunately, women do have more of a weakness in self-belief. So, but we're talking about strengths here. When you use your strengths, you will be more successful. So for me, it's all about strengths to support you on here. So, if we start thinking about doing our weaknesses less, our learned behaviours a bit less, focus on our strengths, we become more successful because we're having more success stories, we're more confident, and we are enjoying what we're doing. So we're more motivated. You get the picture, yeah? It's really important that you play to strengths, and that can really support your self-belief. But just knowing it's there, put it in your back pocket, you've got it, and it can. So so that actually leads me nicely into the unrealised strengths, because when I say put it in your back pocket, it's one of our top unrealised strengths. So we've got potential to be much more confident, ladies, and this a potential strength, unrealised strength, is about saying something that we can do. But we need more opportunities, and we need to do it more often. So here is something that although we're slightly lower in our weaknesses, or we have more of this, we've got a great potential because we are motivated to be more confident. So if you're out there as a woman, or as a man working with women, really use that sort of boost, anything you can to build confidence, spot strengths, and support their success is really important. So supporting and mentoring other women would be my key piece of advice around that. And then, in fact, that was the only unrealised strength that was different, that had a sort of a significant difference. It was us having more motivation around the self-belief. And actually, funnily enough, the difference then in men, for that one that we had self-belief in, was esteem builder. So men have an unrealised strength in esteem builder more than us, because we're using ours already. So men, if you're watching at all, then esteem building women so that they can use more. You could be using more of your unrealised strength to support women who have an unrealised strength in self-belief. So that was the research and the science. I'll give a quick pause there, have a quick drink, and just see if there's anything else you ladies wanted to ask or know. I mean, there's an awful lot more, but for our half an hour we were going to dedicate to it. I hope that's given some insights.
Well, even though there's a lot more, but that's already a lot for my brain to process. I can feel my mind trying to digest everything, join the dots. It'll be really interesting my brain is incubating with this information. What are your thoughts, Laura?
Yeah, I in one sense, it's mind-blowing. I think especially that last point about the capacity for self-belief and just continuing to build and strengthen the foundations. And I think there's really just that sense of, I guess maybe the power of the strengths profile is raising that awareness so that you are aware of your strengths. So like you said, when you keep building, you start having more success stories, and that actually becomes, it creates a snowball effect. So I really love that idea of increasing your self-awareness, knowing who you are, knowing where you can focus on. So, and then that actually feeds into that other and the potential strength that you actually have. So I think just that sense of self-awareness really sounds like it's one of the keys to really stepping out and really living your full life, as you said.
And whoever you are in life, for me, the real key thing in my learning is that do a few things amazingly well. Be your absolute best self, even better. So, so with the amazing things that, we can achieve, why would you waste your time trying to build a weakness and, making yourself even less motivated, even less energized, draining your self-confidence even further? But you do, even if you only did half a dozen things, like out of this world, focus on those and do them beyond out of this world, whatever that might look like, but be your best self authentically. So, when I'm a leader, I have a team that I manage, and I say, I'm hopeless at that, I'm rubbish, who's going to take that on board? It's not me, I'm not going to, and I say, I might be having a meeting internally and sort of say, well, maybe you chair that bit because, I can really see your strengths coming through, better than mine in that space. I think as a leader, when we look at strength spotting and helping people develop their strengths, you give other people a chance to shine by being honest about yourself and saying, this is me, and this is kind of, where I'm going to play to, and who can step up into these other things. And people love to support your leaders. So, make sure that you're playing to your strengths when you do it, but it's the opportunity to be authentic, the self-awareness piece, as you say, Laura. So thanks for that. Super. Well, I know we've only got a sort of around 20 minutes or so. So shall we dive into your profile, Laura?
Sure, I'd love to.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, thank you very much, first of all, for sharing it with me. And I'm sure we can weave some of the learnings in from today. So just for the audiences, I will sort of shout your strengths out, if I may, just so that everybody's aware of which ones you've got in there. Let's celebrate Laura and her top 7 realised strengths today. So they were incubator, curiosity, strategic awareness, humility, adaptable, we've heard about, and planner and prevention. So Laura, which are your favourite 3 and why?
I think I enjoyed perhaps the strategic awareness. I think I just enjoy kind of like seeing the bigger picture, if that makes sense. So I enjoy kind of dabbling in all the different pieces. So I think that's where it comes in. I'd say maybe as well. I think curiosity. I think just constantly putting myself in situations where I get to kind of discover new things and to be surprised. So I think I enjoy that, just kind of immersing myself in new things. And I'd probably say as well, I think I enjoy just the incubator part. So I enjoy pondering possibilities and just thinking about, what's possible. Oh, what would happen if you combine this and this. So I'd say those are the 3.
And those 3 work really well together, don't they? They are the perfect combination. So here we are, somebody who the future is something that you're focused on, and being able to have insights into the future and being able to tap into that. To do that, you're going to need to be curious about what's out there, what the potentials and possibilities are. And then to do that, you've got to really make time to think about all of that, because that's not easy, is it? Planning and supporting future developments. So that sounds like those 3 work really well together for you. Which do you think out of those 7 that you most brings you the most success?
Oh, that's a good question. Out of those 3, or out
of all 7.
I'd say probably adaptability, because I think it helps me balance out my planning. Because sometimes I'm like, I want to plan everything to the nth degree, but then I think being able to be adaptable and sometimes just jump in and then just see how it goes and adapt from there. I think that's really helped me just in terms of navigating life. Like, I'm here in Malaysia, married to my husband, living in a completely different context. And I think that sense of just being able to adapt to wherever I'm planted, I think has been very helpful.
Yeah, no, that sounds great. And something obviously that Joy is really using as a complementary partner to you as well.
Yes, definitely. I'm tapping the most out of Laura's superpower of being adaptable. Doesn't matter what I throw at her, other women might frown or might have a reservation, but she's like, okay, tell me more.
Curiosity.
That sounds fantastic. And then Laura, my final question, because obviously it's on a full debrief here, just to reflect on, and it's really important for everybody to do this, is of those 7, do you think there are any that you might overplay, so use a little bit too much sometimes?
Perhaps humility. So that might be one that I really don't enjoy necessarily shouting about myself. So I love humility, but I guess I could see how that could sometimes probably be something that I overuse in different contexts.
Yeah. So humility being very much about recognizing and other people's success. And of course, if you overplay that, then you're never recognizing your own success. So Joy's clocked that, haven't you, Joy, in terms of celebrating Laura's success? But yeah, absolutely. Sometimes it's not about replacing another strength. It's about down, turning one down a bit, if you like, thinking about it as a volume button to turn one down for something else to shine. So, or maybe recognize, giving that over to colleagues and saying, this is something that I struggle with more so, but with my vision and my goal that I want to achieve, then, how do I potentially, get your support on that? Because it's much easier for somebody else to recognize you rather than recognize yourself, let's be honest. So give it that job to someone else.
Yeah, I think I have some really great partners. So I think Joy and my husband are both really great at that. So I think they really support me in that regard. So yeah, so I think Joy is one of those, again, really pushing me out of my comfort zone. She's just like,
Yeah.
Don't be so humble. I'm like, okay.
Next time you say it was Joy, it was such, just say it was Joy and it was the team who made that success. So it doesn't need to be big leaps. So, Laura, just coming on to the 4 learned behaviours, you've got persuasion, courage, judgment and action. And just for the audience, a learned behaviour is something that you're good at. It's a great resource for you, but it can be something that drains you. Out of those 4, what do you think really sort of shines out at you or stands out at you for something that might drain you?
I would say perhaps persuasion. So yeah, I'd probably say that might be the one that might drain me a little more. So maybe that ties in with the humility. So having to make a case, and then with that, I have to almost like sell a little bit more. So I think I find that yeah, that kind of drains me a little bit more.
So do you have in that case, Laura, some strengths, realised or unrealised, that could help with that? So when you've got to make a case, and you might even have to, as you say, dial down that humility, showcase what you've been working on and doing, what could support you? Any ideas on the strengths front?
So apparently one of my unrealized strength is spotlight. So I think that might that might help. And probably also mission. So I think when I have a mission, then it kind of doesn't matter who I have to sell to. It's like, okay, this is what we want to achieve.
Yeah.
So I find that that's something that could definitely help.
Yeah, great. And so I think you've got an awful lot there in your kit. Really, you've got your legacy and your mission, definitely, and your unrealized. But even going to your realized, if you think about things like your curiosity and strategic awareness, incubating plan, those thinking strengths that you've got as well, would mean very much that your business case is grounded in science and thinking. It's not just, we should just be doing this. Well, why is that then? Give me the business case. Well, it just feels like a good idea. It's not going to be something that comes out of your mouth, but I've thought long and hard. This is what I know about, the marketplace. This is what the research I've done on who else is doing what. So remember that that's an absolute, real sort of key collection of strengths that you've got to be able to present the business case knowledgeably, that you could be using as well.
No, thank you. I think that's a fresh perspective. I think it's something that maybe I take for granted, but I'm like, oh, now that you mention it, yeah, I can see how that could be a little more persuasive, because I do like to know what I'm talking about, and I will have thought it through before I present it. So
and remember, it's not those that shout loudest in this scenario, is it? It's the grounded in your thinking, which is something you clearly are very good at. And again, remember, the learned behaviours are about being an honest resource there and saying, do you know what? Maybe persuasion is something that's always going to be a learned behaviour, but it's fine because I've got all these other strengths that can support me when I need to persuade. So it's not, you're not making persuasion a strength, you're using everything else you've got to make that a little bit more comfortable.
Nice.
Okay, so you only had one weakness that we've actually spoken about already today. And then before we look at your unrealised strengths to finish on, which was it was the dreaded competitive. So tell me a little bit around that and whether you resonated with that there.
Yeah, I guess I did. And again, I think this was a profile that I did during during or towards the end of the lockdown. So it was like during the pandemic. And so I think maybe there was also this sense of we do all need to come together. Like it isn't about winning. It's really about how do we move forward? And maybe, like you said, that's where, for me, maybe that distinction between winning and achieving. So what can we achieve? And it's not about winning or leaving people behind, but how can we actually move forward together? So I think that really did resonate. I was like, oh, that's interesting. I hadn't thought of it as probably like my weakest of the strengths. But yeah, I think it kind of made sense to me at that time.
Yeah, and you're in good hands. A lot of people, not just women, not enjoying this, and it kind of is the opposite of your humility. So your humility, which is one of your key real life strengths, is all about celebrating others. So it feels a bit more natural for you to have a weakness that's about winning, because to put those two together would be pretty difficult, wouldn't it? Get there. It was me. No, it was you. It was me. So again, if that ever was a problem, look to your strengths and potentially dial down that humility. But let's finish on your superpowers of your unrealised strengths. And so the things, Laura, just to remind everybody else, you're good at, you've got energy in, but you're not using as often. We have talked about some of these on here already. Just for the audience: writer, relationship deepener, legacy catalyst, connector, mission, and spotlight. So a brilliant collection there. But what are you most excited about potentially using more in the future?
I think I would say perhaps catalyst. So that's probably one that came as a little bit of a surprise. So I think that's something that I would like to explore, and probably am doing a little bit more, even with the She Network community and the panel, and kind of looking at who can I work with. And but yeah, so I'd say definitely catalyst is something I would like to explore.
And I'm going to push you a little further on that, Laura, because it sounds like you've got some vision around what that could look like. What could be a next step to push that on?
Oh,
put you on the spot here. I shouldn't put an incubator, by the way, on the spot, but there you go. I've done it. Did you like to think? Any ideas, maybe just in terms of just a small action that could just, bring that along?
I think one of the things that, and I think maybe partially why I'm excited as well with tonight's research, is just learning to tap into the women around me. So maybe women that I know, women in leadership, and just being able to, I think, both learn from them and find ways to better maybe communicate some of what they've learned to other people. So I'm finding like maybe that might be an opportunity for me to really connect with people and get them involved in some of those activities that I have planned, some of my secret projects.
That's fine. You can have your secret projects for live on air. I think, I guess, just conscious of time, the big piece for yourself to take away and for others is that, and I find this potentially more common with women, is when you look at those unrealized strengths and you're thinking about which ones do I use more, develop more, go with your heart, not your head. So you might have, let's say organizer or something, or writer or something in there that it's great to have, and it's definitely potential, but it doesn't right now really excite you. So I think listen to kind of opportunities in your heart, and listen, make sure that you're using or developing future around things that you're really motivated, because the temptation potentially is, oh yeah, I should be using that a bit more. I should. I think if you find yourself saying that, then maybe that's the wrong unrealized strength. Pick the ones that, oh God, yeah, I would so love to use that more, and I can see opportunities. So we'll wrap up and pause there. But Laura, thank you for sharing your profile with me. And I guess just for wrapping up, is there anything that either of you want to ask, whether it was Laura's profile or anything that I've not covered here today?
Well, thank you, Trudy. I think it's just been, I think looking at it from a different perspective. I think it's one thing having the profile, but I think interacting around it and having a conversation in this debrief has really helped me to maybe think a little bit deeper on how I can actually activate and use some of those strengths. So thank you for that.
I mean, normal debrief would be sort of 45 minutes to an hour. So I do apologise for
just a taste.
going quite in there, quite deep for the sort of 20
Very
minutes.
tantalizing taste of the full debrief.
So just a fun fact, in my April Strengths Profile report, Catalyst is one of my unrealized strengths, and it's one of the strengths besides incubator that I stare a lot at and cracking my head. How on earth, because it's such a big word, right? I'm like, wow, Catalyst, what do I do with it? It's unrealized. I need to use more of it. So, which is kind of why we're doing what we're doing, and it's amazing to me that Laura's unrealized strength is also Catalyst. Wow, that's really impactful. So I feel like I've learned something new as well about Laura. But I'm curious, Laura, what is your biggest takeaway today with this quick mini debrief with Trudy?
I think maybe the biggest takeaway is I think community, because I think sometimes as women we are exposed to stuff, maybe we know, we've kind of seen it, but I think community and conversations are really a space where you can take it a little bit deeper. So maybe that's where my strength is, my incubator, my curiosity, want to explore it a little bit more. But I'm finding, like, I think just in this interaction, right, that mix of the different elements, different perspectives, you get to look at things from a different angle, even if they are, like, I've had this report for maybe a month or two now, and I'm discovering new things even about myself just from having this conversation. So I think that's really my takeaway, is really the power of community and conversations. Just staying connected is really powerful.
Thank you, Laura. Trudy, what would be your wish or hope for She Network?
So for me, and I know Joy is one that you use as well, but for me it's about as women. So try each day to do one small thing that's going to make the biggest difference to you. Sometimes that might just be a no. sometimes it might just be focusing on one thing and doing it really well. But each day, one small thing that's going to make the biggest difference, not just a difference.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Trudy, for coming on the show, revealing to us your most recent insights on women's strength. I think thanks to you, we are ending the launch on a very empowering note, emphasizing on the strengths that will help us to unlock happiness and empowerment, which is literally what She in the She Network stands for.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. And ladies, you've done an amazing job today. So congratulations on your launch day.
Thank you, Trudy. It's an absolute just privilege to have you, and just to hear your findings. I think it's so amazing, even releasing that into the women, into the community. So thank you so much for sharing.
Okay, so we are going to end this show on a high note, and wait, we have someone joining us in right on time. So we invited the speakers for today, whoever can make it, to join us for ending shot, given this is our last session. So we have Rasanti joining us. Hi Rasanti. Yeah, Rasanti is our in-house expert for holistic health. She is the founder and president of Ayurveda Association in Singapore.
Hello, Trudy.
Hello. Hi.
Okay, so ladies, let's end this show, and today, launch day, on a high note with our superpower pose. Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for watching in. I hope you have had fun today. So catch you again inside the community. Thank you so much. Have a good night, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.